in the Zoom room. And we do have Amy, who, as you guys had heard, in the very tough position of having to go to court. Her daughter was raped. Her other daughter is the other victim in this case, and so frustrated with just the lack of attention, just the lack of, it seems like, anything and everything. Although I know you did have some kind words for your victim advocate and for prosecutor Lenny Rapadas. But just for you to reach this level of frustration, to have to come on the link and broadcast such personal and sensitive information just because you're not getting anything from the AG's office, it's terrible, AG.
Well, Chris, first, if Amy has questions, and I know she said she was working with Attorney Rapadas and her victim advocate, I would, if you're not getting answers, please let me know, and we will figure it out. But I do just want to explain a little bit about what's happening right now in the criminal justice system, because I know that we end up taking the brunt of a lot of the complaints, and some of the criticism is fair, but what's been going on is we have not had the capabilities to have jury selection at all. So we've indicted hundreds of cases this year, but because of the COVID pandemic, there hasn't been a space large enough to actually bring in jury panels to select a jury and to proceed in felony cases. We just received word that on December 31st, they're going to lift the tolling of speedy trial. They're going to lift the tolling of any indictments or grand jury proceedings. So we were also caught off guard when we received notice yesterday that about a dozen cases have been set for scheduling, jury selection and trial. And again, we just received notice yesterday, Chris and Sabrina and Amy. So if you're finding out now, Amy, join the club. We are also finding out that because there's a lift now and they are requiring Superior Court judges to take these cases to trial. As of right now, my understanding is there are only 2 courtrooms that are available for jury selection in felony cases. So there's going to be a slew of cases. We probably are going to be in trial for the foreseeable future because, again, there are hundreds of felony cases that have been filed this year, not including 2019, 2018, any other cases that may be outstanding. So I did just want to explain that it's not as though we've had notice of trials for months and we haven't contacted victims. We are just finding out about this now because there has been a change communicated to our office that the judges are now going to start scheduling trials and lining them up. So again, Amy, I apologize if you haven't had the communication, but if you need to get information, I feel bad if you had to go on the show. It's just, if it's about a trial that was recently set, we just received that information as well. And if we haven't reached out to you quick enough to explain the logistics, the questions you asked about courtroom entry, security, the court does have procedures in place to accommodate that, to ensure that you're not going to be crossing paths with either the defendant or the defendant's family. And we can walk you through those processes to make sure that they're in place when you go to trial.
Well, one of the concerns she raised was the fact that she was just given a third prosecutor and she just found out about it. And she has not talked to this prosecutor, and it's going to trial tomorrow. And she had worked with Lenny all these months. And then all of a sudden she was given a new prosecutor because it's in a different courtroom.
Again, the way we are structured internally, we have someone who is an overall for a criminal sexual conduct case. We have a lead prosecutor who will oversee all those cases. But we have 7 courtrooms and we have 18 to 19 prosecutors. So the way that we have to staff, and the judges have also requested this, we have courtroom teams. So we have courtroom teams and then we have charge leads. And we have to kind of work with that. And I'm sure we will not go to trial unless we're prepared. And we're just having to figure this out as we're going along and cases are being transferred. We don't have control over what courtrooms cases get transferred to, but I will look into it. And again, we won't go to trial in a criminal sexual conduct case without an experienced attorney. We have several experienced attorneys out there. I don't know who was recently assigned. Lenny is one of the more senior attorneys, but we have at least 6 other prosecutors in our office who have years of experience and would be prepared to take this kind of case to trial.
AG, what would you say to Amy and other people who, get passed off to these different prosecutors and they're rightfully concerned about whether or not switching lawyers handling a case is the best way to get these victims justice.
Well, the process is we're going to go to trial, and you have a right to go to trial. We're going to be prepared, and you will get, and again, it's just right now with the notice that we're receiving, things aren't happening. Nothing is optimal right now. So the best case scenario would be we have enough lead time to go into this. We know far in advance. With pre-COVID world, you would get notice of a trial months in advance. You would have an opportunity to go out and we are going to adequately prepare. But we are limited by where we're at courtroom wise, and if cases are transferred or moved, we have to coordinate internally to make sure that a case is going to be transferred and relayed, and all the necessary information is going to be passed along. But we will make sure that she's going to be confident with whatever attorney is going to be handling her case.
Mm-hmm. Amy, let's go ahead and let you have the floor. I know there's some things that you'd like to say.
Well, Mr. Camacho, I appreciate that you're on right now. I heard everything you said. My question to you is, my trial date has been set for December 4th for about 2 to 3 weeks. Now, I knew that my trial Zoom date, whatnot, would be on December 4th. So I didn't really understand about you just getting notice about it. I am concerned, Mr. Camacho, because I don't know what to tell my daughter. Her rapist is about to be released tomorrow to a third party. How can you, and I am just gonna let you know, I am not trying to attack you, Mr. Camacho, but I am letting you know I have called and I have left my phone number and my name for messages for you, specifically you, because the receptionist there said that I am not allowed to speak to the prosecuting attorneys, and the only one that I'm allowed to go through is my AG advocate. So I decided if I can't get a hold of or meet my prosecuting attorney, my new prosecuting attorney, I wanted to speak to you then. So I don't know if you got my name and my phone number and what it is in regards to, but I'm just letting you know I have left my name and my number for you several times. I have, no offense, tried waiting for you a few times, hoping that I would catch you on a lunch coming in or out of that office, but I didn't. But I don't know how to have the confidence to tell my daughters that she spoke up and she did the right thing. I do understand you guys are slammed. Please know that. I understand you guys are just swamped, but us being passed, so you said there's 6 or 7 other prosecuting attorneys, and I believe you, but how many more will my daughters need to meet to reach out and feel comfortable and have that confidence? Because honestly, like you said, Lenny is a senior. I know he has a reputation here on this island. He gave my daughters that confidence, Mr. Camacho. He like I said, he didn't say it was a slam dunk case, but he told my daughters that he was gonna try. And out of the other prosecuting attorneys, that's the best that I've gotten. Me as a mother having to bring them in. And I understand in a COVID world, it's gonna take a lot longer. We're all learning all of this, online schooling. I just recently found out as well that I can't even be in the courtroom with my daughter. So I understand that COVID is affecting a lot of things, but is there any way that you can give my daughters stability right now with just one AG, Mr. Camacho? And if that AG can do their best to help me from him being released. My daughters are scared, yeah. Mr. Camacho. And
well, Amy, I guess this is another common misconception. I am sure that we oppose the release just based on what you're telling us. But at the end of the day, a judge gets to decide whether to release or defend it. So we can go in and we can argue that they should not be released based on the charges. But if a judge decides to release and to release a third-party custodians, that's really beyond what our office can do. So again, I'm sure that we went and we argued against the release based on COVID concerns. It's just judges make that decision, not our office. And in terms of the advocate and prosecutors, I'll look into it and make sure I will follow up on those messages. I know that we typically try to have a single point of contact with our office. So that is why you would be working with an advocate instead of talking directly with the prosecutor, because the advocate is there to make sure that your interests and your rights are going to be represented. And a prosecutor sometimes is going to be a little bit different in terms of what goes on. In this case, it sounds like you're going to be cooperating, but we have other cases where victims and prosecution may not necessarily see eye to eye. So we always want to make sure that victims have an advocate that's going to be there for them and not just a wing of prosecution, normal prosecution.
But AG, so when you talk about having that one point of contact, whether it be with the victim advocate or the respective prosecutor, what happens when someone like Amy hits a brick wall and is forced to leave messages for you, an elected attorney general? She's forced to go up to the 8th floor on top of the ITC building just to try and get a word with you. I mean, she's even trying to catch you coming out of the building on your lunch break.
Yeah, Chris, I know I'm mostly coming onto the show about criminal prosecution, but we have 7 other divisions in our office as well. So, and I, as much as I would love to be familiar with every single case that we file and every single case that's going to go to trial, the reality is even for Amy's case, I'm going to need to go back. I'm going to need to talk to your advocate. We're going to have to work backwards to figure out what exactly goes on. So even if Amy were to have caught me, I wouldn't have the answers that she's looking for other than this very general information, and we can work through those channels. So if people are having difficulties getting through our office or talking to your advocate, please let us know. Yes, we need to make sure we're doing a better job, and I'll be free to admit it. We need to make sure if there are miscommunications, if it's not being explained, that we have separate entrances for victims, and we need to look at that and make sure that our advocates are explaining that to everyone who's going to be potentially lined up for trial. And again, I'll look into what's scheduled. I knew that there was a case. There are cases being set, Amy, for trial, but there are only 2 courtrooms. So you have 1 judge of 7 that are currently setting trials, and there's going to be limited space. So, whether or not it's likely that it's going to go tomorrow, hopefully we'll get a clearer answer of that. But I just looked at the list. We have 12 cases that are set to start trial, and that just can't happen because there's only 2 courtrooms that are available. That's 12 trials for 1 judge that have been scheduled to happen within the next few weeks.
Leevin, you mentioned that there's misconceptions, right? That it would be the judge who would ultimately decide who would be released or granted pretrial release. But would the victim be notified, or the victim's family be notified that a hearing would take place on a motion for pretrial release? Because Amy was saying earlier that she wasn't notified.
It depends, Sabrina. So this is where defendants can file ex parte or emergency motions. And in those kinds of situations, the judges can hear them immediately without even giving our office notice. So there are many cases where a motion gets filed. We may not even receive a copy of it, but a judge has set it for a hearing. So I would like to say in every single time that there's going to be one of these types of motions filed, we're going to have an opportunity, our office, to get notice and then to relay it down, and it gets to victims. But procedurally, there is a tool available for emergencies for defendants to get cases heard extremely quickly before judges.
Even in sensitive cases like this, where a 13-year-old was raped?
I know our prosecutors, Sabrina, are always going to go in there and they're going to oppose until we get victim notification. And again, every single violent crime, CSC included, we have opposed the release of defendant, even with COVID, because DOC has taken measures to isolate, to quarantine their folks. And our position is they need to stay incarcerated until we get to go to trial. But the judges, they have different standards that they're going to apply. I saw on deck, there's a few cases that our prosecutors relayed to us that they were very upset that there were folks that were released to third-party custodian. But at the end of the day, the judges are the ones who are making those decisions, and it's not something that we can appeal to the Supreme Court. We can explain to the victims, we can do everything we can to ensure that the victims are going to be safe, and the defendants are not going to be out there harassing or bothering the victims. But in terms of the decision to release or what conditions to impose, that's beyond what our office has authority to do.
Amy, what are you making of these responses? It sounds like AG said even if he had called you back, or even if you had surprised him in the hallway, or coming out of the door to his office, heading to lunch or whatever, he wouldn't have been able to tell you anything. But he's mentioning a lot of the COVID restrictions, which we're all familiar with. Are these reasons to you, or are you hearing excuses?
Well, Chris, I'm going to back up a little bit. There are very specific things that are in Amy's case that I would not be able to answer. So the example is the trial date. I am not familiar with her case, and I know sometimes there are scheduling hearings that are set. There are pretrial conferences that are set. There are jury selection dates that are set. And all of that needs to happen before an actual trial begins. You just don't go tomorrow and you start trial. Jury selection itself often takes several days. And with COVID now, you're going to have to bring in different panels of individuals. They're going to have to be socially distanced. So in order for me to adequately respond to Amy's questions and even to answer that, December 4th is my trial date, I would need to talk to the prosecutor or to the advocate.
Yeah, but if I was if I was the
information.
AG, and I'm not even a lawyer, but if I was and there was a woman who was trying to get a hold of me, I would probably do my homework and be like, who is this Amy lady? Find out more about this. Oh, her daughter was raped. Well, let me give her a call. Not like, oh, I didn't call you back because I don't know what to say.
Well, Chris, we try to handle it through the prosecutors and the advocates who are assigned the cases first. So if we have someone who's coming for information and not getting it, I keep going back. I'm glad that Amy brought it up, and I'm glad this is being brought to my attention, and we'll look at the way that we process things. There's always going to be room for improvement. But the reality is, for every single child support case, for every single criminal case that gets filed, not just felony cases, we have hundreds of felonies and misdemeanor cases that are filed this year. For every other matter that's filed before the government of Guam, we need to make sure that our teams and our managers are doing their job. And if not, then it gets elevated up to me, and then I'll address it. But I apologize to Amy for not getting the answers that she wants, but it's just, I'm not going to be able to meet someone in the hallway and give specific answers to a case that I just don't know anything about.
Amy?
I'm not making excuses. That's just a reality. I can't keep track, and I don't monitor every single case that we're going to take to trial.
Amy?
I wouldn't expect you, Mr. Camacho, to know my trial specifically. But you also never met somebody as persistent as me. I probably wouldn't leave you alone. I'd probably follow you into the elevator and whatnot until you say, okay, let's go back into my office and let me look into it.
Well, you're a good mom, and you're looking out for the safety of your daughters, and that makes it's clear from this interview that you're just worried about the safety of your daughter, and I think it goes back to your initial. You shouldn't have to talk to me, Amy, is what I'm saying. If we're not explaining things well enough at the advocate level or at the prosecutor level, then we need to assess how we're doing things and how we're communicating and what we're communicating and improve if we can.
That's pretty much I just couldn't get. I don't know who, or I do know her name, but I have not spoken to her. I have not done a Zoom conference with her. I don't know what she looks like. So I don't know who this new prosecuting attorney is for my daughters. I do have a question though, since you said that. So does that mean court tomorrow will be pushed back? Like, are we being pushed back again? I understand one courtroom, thousands and thousands and thousands of different cases. But
we have to see what the hearing is scheduled and what the actual title is. So if they told you trial, again, that wouldn't really align with the way that the procedures go, because there has to be jury selection before there's a trial. So tomorrow, potentially it could be a jury selection is going to start. It could also be a scheduling conference or a pretrial conference, and we'll be able to get an answer for you. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
You know,
But
if there's a
something's
plea
going to give.
agreement.
Going back to it.
I'm sorry.
Is there a plea agreement in this case? Do you know?
I did offer him a plea agreement, and it was just up until recently that he declined it. So they set in motion a court calendar, or a trial calendar. I'm sorry. So again, Mr. Camacho, I hope you understand this is new for me. I am learning as well, but please just understand, I am not trying to attack you or your office. I am trying to find answers to
Absolutely.
give
And
my daughter, like I said, reassurance, because Lenny reached out. He wanted to meet my daughters and myself. We did that. It went as well as it did. Lenny handled the plea agreement, and then I'm not sure what happened while waiting for the next Zoom court trial hearing, but within that time there was a switching of courtrooms again, and see, that's what I'm a little confused by, is the switching of courtrooms, but then there's only one court. I I'm sorry, I'm like learning.
You don't
Like
have
I
to
said, I'm
it's
sorry.
apologize,
okay. No,
Amy.
yeah, you don't. I mean, and that's something, if you have questions, that's something that our advocates should be able to explain to you, and don't apologize. You're looking out for your daughters and wanting to make sure that they're gonna get their day in court. So, and Sabrina, just to touch up on another point, I know there's often criticism levied on our office that a lot of our cases are resolved via plea. In cases where they're victims are always consulted or must always be consulted before an offer is made, and then they also are given an opportunity at the change of plea hearing, to confirm that the victim was contacted and is aware. So a victim's input is important. It's not the determining factor, it is something that we consider, but as you can see in this case, if there was an offer made, it was in consultation with Amy, and she was operating on behalf of her daughters.
No, I just think we wouldn't be here if you had just called the lady back.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, I'm here now, and again, if people are having to come to my office, I try my best to talk to everyone who comes up and who asks questions, but more importantly, I get them the answers they want. So I've had people that have sent me emails, ag@oagguam.org, and I'll repeat it again, ag@oagguam.org. If you have questions about things, email that address, and if I don't personally respond to it, I will make sure that you get an answer from our office, and we're very good about that.
And just again, Amy, you said the AG advocate told you that the perpetrator was going to be released to a third-party custodian tomorrow.
Yes, they combined I'm confused now, but I mean, maybe the court hearing will still be for tomorrow. I'm not sure, but they just combined his release hearing and the trial hearing together. So yeah. And like I said, I'm just concerned because I haven't met my new prosecuting attorney, and we're supposed to be, I just really want to oppose his release. Please just understand that. Like, my daughters are frightened, and I just need to hear that we are going to do what we need to do, like you said, opposing. But Mr. Camacho, I know you don't know the details, but I will tell you previously, there was somebody sitting in for my first prosecuting attorney. Apparently she wasn't able to be in court that day for his bail, or like I said, he's been trying to get released this whole time. But honestly, Mr. Camacho, our side didn't have an issue with it. And that was the very first time that I tried to catch somebody or speak to somebody upstairs on the 8th floor. And I'll be honest with you, Mr. Camacho, I sat there and the receptionist there did tell me, ma'am, there is no point in you waiting here. You're not allowed to see anybody that works in this office. So I'm just letting you know. I am not trying to attack you. Please just understand me as a mother of 2 daughters and what our interests are and what we would like. We just want a voice, Mr. Camacho. We really do. And if I don't know who else to speak to, that's why I tried to get a hold of you. Sorry.
Are you embarrassed at all, AG, about how Amy is describing the level of service she's receiving from your office?
Chris, I wouldn't say I'm embarrassed. I know that our advocates in particular work very hard, and it may just be that we need to be clearer in our communication with victims, because it's something where we do this. we're more familiar with the system. So when we need to explain things like that, the difference there's a hearing tomorrow. What type of hearing is it? I mean, someone can say it's a scheduling conference, but it's relayed to a victim that you're going to trial on that day. So I'm not embarrassed for my staff. I'm not ashamed of my staff. I know they all care very deeply about the work they do, especially our prosecutors who are prosecuting in sex offenses. So no, Chris, I'm not embarrassed or ashamed of my staff.
Amy, anything you want to put out here in closing? As we've reached, we're a little over our time, but obviously this takes priority. So I don't want to let you go because I feel like, I mean, there's a chance you might never even hear from the AG again. So anything you got that you want to put forward, we can do it now.
Once again, Mr. Camacho, I do appreciate you coming on and giving me some type of answers because I was sitting in the dark. All I know is we're switching courtrooms, and that's why my daughter's prosecuting attorneys keep changing. I don't know how many more times that'll change, but I'm on air begging you. I know it's not hard to look up my daughter's case or my name or my information, and I'm not trying to embarrass you, but I'm begging you for some type of stability for my daughters. My daughter feels, Mr. Camacho, that she's not going to win. She's not going to be represented to the best of anybody's ability. She's doubtful. She wanted me to withdraw this whole rape case, and I don't want her to do that. So I am asking you, since you're here and I do have your attention, please help me. Help my daughters. I'm just asking for stability with them. And I'm sorry. I'm not trying to embarrass you again. I don't know who else I can turn to. Where do we go for our answers? But I appreciate you giving me the email. I didn't have that before. Nobody gave me that as, oh, you can reach out and email this person. So I appreciate that, and I will email you if I have any other concerns, but I'm begging you right now. And I'm sure you're a parent, right, Mr. Camacho? I mean, you would be wanting this for your children too, if something were to have happened. That's what I'm asking. But thank you, Chris, Sabrina, and Mr. Camacho for your time.
Thank you, Amy. God bless you and your daughters. And we're just praying that God will guide this case to the best outcome for you and your family. And I applaud you. I think the AG should be embarrassed of his staff. This is egregious. I mean, the fact that a victim has to come on here, has to go camp out at the AG's office just to get an answer about anything. I can't believe what I'm hearing. But sadly, I feel like it's pretty par for the course.
Yeah, Chris, yeah, of course I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. You know, we have over 1,000 victims we're providing services to, and Amy's outcome, we're going to find out what's going on with their case. But unfortunately, you can extrapolate from data points from people complaining. Victims are not going to come on to your show and say, my advocate was great. And I can tell you that there have been many times
but
where
Amy just did.
have been, but we've had, no, I'm saying if an advocate does the best job, and I can tell you that I've seen cases, in particular CC cases, where an advocate goes above and beyond, provides comfort, and is there throughout every stage, and including the sentencing. But you're not going to have victims or the families of victims come onto your show and say, my advocate did a good job. And again, it's unfortunate. We will look into what happened with Amy's case, but to say that our advocates should be ashamed of themselves or embarrassed because of,
no, I said you should be embarrassed.
We're going to, well, Chris, I know we have regular communication with my advocates. I know they have continued to work throughout the pandemic. They do their best based on the information they're given. And if it's a miscommunication, then we'll improve. And if this is a situation where we need to improve, we will take care of it. But you're looking at a complaint and you're going to say, okay, well, the AG should be embarrassed of himself. But you guys don't see the successes, and you don't see the essential services that our office continues to provide. Our prosecutors care about their cases. Lenny has cared about this case. I know the new prosecutor. I just got a text about who's been assigned the case. She's a very seasoned prosecutor. She is the senior attorney at her office, and I know she would be able to prosecute the case as well. And we'll set up a meeting with Amy after this. But I have complete confidence in my staff. They're going to continue to do their jobs to the best of their abilities. And on your point about the Harmon case, to go back to it, that's not what happened, Chris. And I didn't do a good enough job explaining what happened in that case. When you get a magistrate's complaint, you have 48 hours to make a determination whether to charge or not. When I came on the show and I didn't explain it well enough, and I'm glad I'm given an opportunity to talk a little bit more about it, we had police reports, we had no video. So we had no way of knowing that the people who were actually arrested, what they did. We subsequently received the videos, and we were able to look at that and to now make a determination what types of charges, if any, to file against the people who have been arrested. But we had a few hours to get the police reports and to make a decision whether or not there's probable cause to charge those particular defendants. We did not have the information that we needed to adequately make that determination. We couldn't go before grand jury because grand jury proceedings have been suspended up until the last month or so. So this is something new that we're adjusting to. But it wasn't as though it was a book and release and we knew that they were out there terrorizing people. We didn't know that because we didn't have the video from the victims at that time.
Can we get a comment on the Tory verdict while we have you here?
I'm going to just echo what our chief prosecutor said. It's disappointing considering that there's audio of Mr. Piolo, saying what he said, and I'm not sure. We have to respect the juror's decision, but we presented that evidence to them, and I don't know what stronger evidence you could have presented.
Well, AG, I mean, no matter what, we definitely appreciate that you took the opportunity to come on and address Amy. I mean, what else were you going to do, right? I mean, Amy, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And, I respect what you said. You gave props where you felt they needed to be given. I think you were very fair. I don't think you need to apologize here. And again, we're just praying for the best. And that's really where we're coming from. We're not trying to gotcha the AG or anything like that. I mean, just trying to do our part to amplify your voice because it's obvious you weren't being heard.
Thank you guys for your time. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, we'll look out for the hearing on the calendar for tomorrow, and then also we'll reach out to you.
Yeah, keep us posted. You have my number. I'll call you back. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, though.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Leevin.
Guys.
Thank you, AG.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not satisfied. But I'm not the one here who has to be satisfied with it. I think, like Amy said, she as well appreciated the AG coming on, and that's really, really. I mean, had that been done early on, and that's where I'm just so sour about this. Is this how we treat our victims? Like this? This is how we treat them? And I disagree with the AG. I do hear about when people are happy with the service they get. And we're not taking Amy's situation and Amy's case and holding it up as the standard for everything. But, hey, we're in the media. We hear all kinds of stuff. And sadly, more times than not, we hear about people who are not satisfied. Sabrina?
I just feel for Amy and her daughters who must be just really scared right now. And if in fact the perpetrator is going to be released tomorrow, and the fact that she and her family had no voice to oppose his release, I mean, that I know if it were me, COVID or not, I would be there yelling, probably screaming, do not let this guy out. I mean, what person wouldn't? What mother wouldn't? What father wouldn't?
Right. What parent wouldn't be over there at the AG's office on the 8th floor? What parent wouldn't be trying to get a hold of the AG? What parent wouldn't be trying to catch him, coming out of his office for lunch?
I'm barely holding on right now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go, guys. It's 10:22. This has been the link again. There was a comment here. Refresh us for those just joining. Like we always say, miss a link, miss a lot. The show will be put up, archived on our Facebook live feed. This interview will be cut up and put out on our KUAM News YouTube, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see more about it on the news tonight. So, thank you, Joe, sir. Thank you, Jason. Master Control, most especially to our viewers on the link. Thank you guys for supporting what we try and do here on the show.
And also anybody else that's having any sort of issues, whether it's with the court or it's the government, wherever. If you need help, give us a call, 637-0094, or message us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or reporters at KUAM.com, Sabrina at KUAM.com, Chris at KUAM.com, and we'll try and get you some help.
And that's a promise. So on behalf of our sponsors here at the link, our audience and our team, my name is Chris.
I'm Sabrina.
Adios.
Curbside to Crib Fridays at 9:45 a.m. on KUAM.